The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
From the early days when everyone was learning to bake bread during lockdowns to today when delivery apps can bring just about anything right to your door, COVID-19 changed mealtime, and that's changed us. Tonight, how our relationship to food, eating, and self-perceptions of our bodies transformed during this pandemic. It's Wednesday, February 16th, and that's all ahead on the agenda. Let's face it, pandemic pounds are a thing. Thrown off all our usual routines, many Canadians feel they've gained weight due to the lockdowns, gyms being closed, or grazing in the home office/kitchen. But should you worry about it or leap into the latest diet trend? Let's ask. In London, Ontario, Noelle Martin, dietitian and co-founder and CEO of the nutrition clinic Nourish Beginnings. Hi.
Hello, Nam. How are you?
I'm great. I'm taking notes as I speak to you. Before we start our chat, I just wanted to look at some data, and you can help us understand these numbers a little bit. So let's take a look at some numbers on weight gain during the COVID era. This from the Dalhousie University study. Of the 10,000 surveyed for the report, 42% have gained unintentional weight. 75% of those gained less than 15 pounds. 16% lost weight. 51% said that they worry about the pandemic led them to eat more. And less than 10% have been able to manage meal times during the pandemic. That means meal planning, meal prep, buying groceries, etc. Over 50% of respondents stated that they find eating to be something they turn to when they are stressed and makes them feel better when they feel down. Noelle, I want to be one of those 16% who lost weight, but I am not. I am part of the group that did gain weight. When you look at those numbers, what do you see as a dietitian? What do those numbers tell you?
Well, to be honest with you, as a dietitian, I always want to ask more questions. I want to understand more. But when I look at these numbers, one of the big things that speaks to me is, wow, we are so affected by stress in our life, and the way that that then affects our habits with food. Right? So when stress comes in, perhaps we're eating more, perhaps we're eating less, perhaps we're so overwhelmed with everything that's been going on that we struggle to do things like just meal plan or meal prep that come quite naturally outside of a stressful time. And so when I hear these numbers and when I think about the actual individuals that these numbers apply to, it makes me want to ask more questions of, when you were feeling this way, how did food affect you during that time? Did it help to calm you? Did it add more stress in the end? And what can we do? How can we band together in order to say, hey, you know what? Food is something we turn to when we're feeling more stressed or more emotional. And we know hormones play a big difference in this too. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and it spiked during this time of the pandemic for so many. So how can we, instead of turning this just negative, how can we turn it to the positive and say, wow, we've had the opportunity to learn something about ourselves, and what can we do going forward as we sort of walk out of this pandemic into what we've said as a new normal? We hear this term all the time. What can we do going forward to be the healthiest that we can be? We don't need to live in regret. We don't need to live upset with ourselves. We want to live in a way where we say, okay, this happened, now what?
Well, we're exiting sweater weather, which means that I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about what their bodies look like. In the short term, maybe people will turn to dieting, but what are the long-term implications of this weight gain?
Well, one of the things that we know is that when we do have unintentional weight gain, there are other things that can happen within our body. So I don't really love to just look at the number on the scale. My goodness, we could have a weight gain with the extra water inside of us because we had an extra salty meal, right? And so when we look at the number on the scale, that's not everything. I like to look at true body health. So these individuals, perhaps they were underweight to begin with, and now they're up to more of a weight that that still puts them in a healthy category. What do their blood sugars look like? What does cholesterol look like? What does blood pressure look like? And how are these individuals feeling mentally? Because mental health is a big deal. So there's a movement called HAZE. It's healthy at every size. So rather than visually looking at the size of someone or just looking at the numbers on the scale, I love to dig deeper and understand, are you physically and mentally healthy at this time? And if you're not, that's when we want to start to look at lifestyle behavior changes, but not fad diets. We want to look at the long term, not the short term. Losing 10 pounds in a matter of a few weeks, I mean, that's not real weight loss that leads to true health mentally or physically. What we want to do is talk about, can we add more greens to your plate? Or if you love to have chips, could you have some cheese and apple with those chips? Or some carrots and hummus with those chips? So instead of saying, you need to take all of this away so that you lose the weight quickly, I would more say, hey, it sounds like you're stressed. Can we talk about some ways that we can help you manage this stress, and also talk about ways that we could balance out your eating habits a little bit?
You've said unintentional weight, and I'm guessing that's weight that we've put on without meaning to, right? Is that what that means?
Correct. That's exactly what it means.
You know, there's a lot of things that we used to take for granted before the pandemic. I didn't realize that when I was commuting, that was my exercise for the day. But obviously that's been out of the equation for a lot of us. How much has the lack of scheduling and structure in the past years contributed to this weight gain?
Oh, I think it's a really, really large contributor. It's a powerful contributor, really, because when we look at the things that we do as part of even just activities of daily living, as you've said, those are some of our steps, right? Sure, we may have times that we would go to a gym or be active in the home or outside of the home, but there's just these activities of daily living that we weren't required to do. And even just going to the grocery store is something that became a less frequent activity. The other thing is, we know we did have gym closures. And for some individuals, they love the idea of going to a place to be active. And so it was hard maybe to have the same level of motivation as they once did. And so I love that you brought that in, because it's not just the eating piece, it's the activity piece as well, and it's the routine. It's great to have spontaneity in life, but we do as humans thrive on some routine, and we know that habits connect. And so if someone was used to a certain rhythm or pattern in their day and that was taken away, that's very traumatic, and more traumatic than I think we even realized, because it happened so suddenly. And then it kept happening over and over again. We would say, oh, it's just for this little bit. Oh, it's happening again. And that's hard.
I like that you use the word traumatic, because it's kind of as if our bodies have been in shock, and it kind of ties back to that piece you were talking about, how we eat to comfort ourselves. But you mentioned, I wanted to go over some terms with you. You already mentioned HAZE, but what is BMI?
That's a great question. So it refers to the idea of taking someone's weight and taking someone's height, and then we do a calculation and we come out with a number. And that number is just a quick and easy way to say, hey, is this individual within a range that we say, yeah, that's a healthy body weight, or are they a little under, or are they over, or are they a lot over? So underweight, what we call healthy or normal. I don't love the term, as you can tell. Mm-hmm. Overweight, obese, and then into classes. And it doesn't tell us anything about body composition.
Well, I was going to ask you, why don't you like the term?
Because we have Olympic athletes that would be in the overweight and obese category, and here they are at the Olympics, and perhaps some of our healthiest individuals. It doesn't tell us everything. It doesn't tell us about body mass. It doesn't tell us about waist circumference and hip circumference. It doesn't tell us about the way this individual is eating. And so we could call someone overweight or obese, but they actually might be a very healthy individual. We need to look at more factors than just BMI. And so I don't use it really in my practice. And I know most dietitians don't anymore, and we're encouraging physicians not to either. It can help us in terms of a red flag. Do we need to ask more questions? But it's not everything. And I don't love the idea of labeling an individual that way.
We've all been through so much. Is it okay to have been eating to keep our spirits up?
It's a great question. When we look at emotional eating, we know we need to leave some room for it. There's endorphins that go off in our brain when we consume something that we enjoy. It's a calming effect. It starts early on in infancy, as soon as a baby has breast milk or formula, and carries on throughout life. However, we also want to take a look at overall health. And so while we want to embrace the fact that there's certainly going to be some eating based on emotion or anxiety, I personally would always work with an individual to look beyond that and also make sure that we're not just using it as a Band-Aid, that we're also looking deeper into, if you're feeling anxious, what else can we do to help with that anxiety? If you are satisfying a craving, absolutely. It's part of intuitive eating. If you're craving those chips, have those chips. If you're craving a cookie, have that cookie. What else could you have with the chips or with the cookie that allow for you to also take in more nourishment to satisfy your hunger level too?
As a dietitian, you work with a lot of parents, you work with a lot of moms, and throughout this pandemic, we've had this running joke of how kids seem to want snacks every 5 seconds, especially when we were doing online learning. It was like, you already had a snack. How many snacks can I make you? And parents were everything, working from home, teaching their kids, trying to juggle everything. And obviously, a lot of things fell to the wayside. Maybe that was eating well, and then guilt comes, right? So how can we be supportive of parents who feel guilty that healthy eating habits were not so great these past few years?
Absolutely, we need to realize that we have come through a very abnormal period, and we need to give ourselves a lot of grace. We know that guilt does nothing for us. The worse that we feel, the more we're likely to stick in that stressful, traumatic place and continue with the behaviors that we actually are maybe not wanting to see in our lives anymore. And so my encouragement is, give yourself grace, realize what's done is done, and think about one small step that you could start to take. Perhaps it's that breakfast was, being skipped during this crazy time, and you're going to start adding 10 minutes for breakfast into your day for the coming week and the coming 2 weeks. And then when that becomes a really established habit, maybe you're going to start adding a handful of spinach to your lunch each day. Just little things. And we build something called self-efficacy, which is basically, we're going to do what we said we were going to do. If you say you're going to go for a 10-minute walk, you do it. And it helps you to believe that you can do it and you can fit this in. And then maybe you increase it to 20. Starting with small goals, following through on those goals is a wonderful way to kind of build our spirits back up, to build that confidence in ourselves back up. And I also encourage moms that if they feel like it's selfish, if they feel like they're taking time for themselves in order to, eat the meal or go for the walk, remember that as parents, as caregivers, as even just examples to other children in our life, even if they're not your own, it's a beautiful example of the importance of prioritizing our health and prioritizing following through on what we said we were going to do.
Noelle, thank you so much for your insights. It's been great speaking to you. And again, we made it through this period by taking it one day at a time. So getting back to healthy, let's take it one day at a time. Thanks so much.
I totally agree.
Even if you were able to avoid catching COVID-19 between comfort eating and staring at yourself on endless Zoom calls, these have been tough times for our bodies. It's been no picnic either for people's self-image, as many of our usual habits and coping strategies slipped away. With us now to make some sense out of it all, including how to move towards greater body positivity. In Los Angeles, California, David Pevsner, author of Damn Shame, a memoir of desire, defiance, and show tunes. In the west end of Ontario's capital city, Colleen Conroy Amato, an eating disorder counselor in the Department of Athletics and Recreation at Ryerson University. In the city's East End, Marnie Rabinovich-Konsky, founder and CEO of the size-inclusive undergarments company, Thigh Society. And we welcome back from London, Ontario, dietitian Noelle Martin, co-founder and CEO of the nutrition clinic, Nourish Beginnings. Welcome to you all.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for being here. Before we start our discussion, I wanted to take a look at some numbers on disordered eating, body image, and COVID-19. Out of 10,000 Canadians surveyed for a report from Dalhousie University, 77% stated their stress level increased during the pandemic. 74% said the pandemic affected their eating habits. 42% have gained unintentional weight. 75% gained less than 15 pounds, and 16% lost weight. And of course, the top three stressors during this whole time have been social isolation, trying to balance work and life, and the fear of getting sick with COVID-19 and what that would mean for your families. After looking at all those numbers, I wanted to get an idea of what those numbers say to you. David?
You know, we were kind of forced into a kind of a lockdown situation. And for anybody who had any kind of a regular regimen, you know, like if you're a gym goer every day, well, suddenly you can't. And so you had to make adjustments. And sometimes it's like home workout. And, you know, we weren't going to restaurants, so we were cooking more at home. And can you cook? So, you know, or if you can't cook, did you depend on like fast food type stuff and, you know, stuff that doesn't have as much nourishment? It was such an abrupt change to the way we live that it couldn't help but cause those numbers to happen.
And Marnie?
We do turn to food for comfort. And when you think about some people's other coping mechanisms, turning to food isn't the worst thing in the whole world, right? It made us feel safe, and it gave us comfort during a really challenging time.
And Noelle?
Habits are connected to other habits. Habits are connected to our routine. And we went into a state of shock where nothing that we knew as normal was normal anymore. Things didn't seem as reliable as they once did. And so when that happens, it can lead us in this place of shock to do things a little differently than we've been used to, and things that were connected, all of a sudden they're just all gone. And so we are now in this place of saying, okay, how do we pick up these pieces that kind of shattered around us?
And David, you know, when we talk about body image and weight, for a very long time, this conversation has primarily focused on women because marketing. But by not including men in this conversation, what are the repercussions to men in your view?
Well, first of all, as a gay man, I mean, these issues have been around as long as anybody because, you know, in our community, you know, physicality can be a very important thing in terms of attraction and all of that. So it's not that new for gay men. Maybe for straight men or for people who never really thought about it before. I think, you know, it's not only look, it's health. You know, when you're spending more time at home, and I don't know. I just think for men, there are some new issues for men who have never dealt with this before. But for gay men, we've dealt with it as much as women have.
What would you, because of the work that you do for straight men, what do you think those new issues would be?
Well, for guys who like are not used to having a little extra pounds on them, for the stress of not working necessarily, because some of them are not working. Their lives have just changed so much. And I almost don't know what to say. I mean, I feel like our issues are very much the same in a certain respect, men and women. I think that this pandemic has kind of been the great equalizer, that everybody is kind of facing the same thing. So anything you can talk about with women here, it may be new to men, to certain men, but we're all in the same boat, I think.
When we talk about men, Colleen, is this what you're seeing?
Absolutely. Body image and weight issues do not discriminate, regardless of your socioeconomic status, your gender, your sexual orientation, your ethnicity. It is a great equalizer, and COVID has accelerated this for everyone.
And Colleen, when we talk about the pandemic, because I think so many things were out of our control, eating disorders have been something that have been on the rise. What is happening with this particular mental health issue in the wake of COVID-19, from what you're seeing?
Well, this is its own pandemic, and it is hard to imagine another set of rare circumstances that could have promoted as many risk factors for the development of this. And it's magnified this on a global level. It's fair to say that those of us who do treat adolescents and young people with eating disorders were woefully unprepared to manage the surge. And with health resources being reallocated to deal with this pandemic, it's only made wait lists and access to early intervention and maybe trips to emergency that much more difficult to access.
You mentioned risk factors. What are those risk factors that were missed?
So we know that risk factors for eating disorders can be genetic. We know that they can be due to social isolation and comparisons. Social media puts extra pressure on adolescents. Just being exposed to diet culture and maybe not ever meeting a person that hasn't been on a diet, restricting food categories, stress, underlying mental health issues, perfectionism.
And no wonder the pandemic seems to be like this perfect storm, because we've had so much time to watch different shows on TV, more time to spend online. And Marnie, you're coming at this issue of body image and inclusivity from a social entrepreneur's perspective. How does your company, Thigh Society, help those who are struggling with their bodies?
So at Thigh Society, we are size inclusive in the slip shorts that we sell. And we've been body diverse and inclusive since day one. So what we do is we feature models of all shapes and sizes on our website, because the shorts that we sell are intended for women to prevent chafing, modesty, no matter what size you are. And so I started the company because I felt there was a lot of stigma around thigh chafing, and the fact that if your thighs chafe, it must equate with you being overweight. And I really resented that. It's totally false. Skin chafing can be a result of friction and moisture and has nothing to do with your weight, actually. So we're really on a mission to destigmatize this perfectly normal skin condition. And I often liken it to putting on deodorant in the morning. We're all human. We all have bodies. Our armpits sweat. We put on deodorant. There's no real stigma around doing that. So why would we have any stigma around thigh chafing or around having to put on a pair of long underwear to be able to enjoy the clothes that we love?
Colleen mentioned social media. There was a social media app at one point that actually filtered your thighs, and kind of you had like this thigh gap, which was really that kind of pressure. What do you think that kind of pressure puts on young women, especially, Marnie?
It's horrible. I mean, I don't know. I sometimes wonder if it would have been better or worse to grow up in an age of social media. On the one hand, the fact that these filters are available for young women to see and use, and follow these creators who are promoting very unrealistic, filtered, fake images of what they look like online, is horribly destructive. On the other hand, there is a resurgence of a lot of body positive influencers who are living confidently and happily in the bodies that they're in, and they're all sizes. So from that perspective, I know for me growing up, struggling with weight, I never really felt that I had any role models to look up to, or, I was I'm not going to sit here and say that I was plus size, but it was difficult for me to find role models in the media that looked like me. There was always this pressure to feel like I had to lose 10 or 15 pounds growing up, whereas girls today at least have the opportunity to follow some positive influencers on social. So I don't think it's all bad. I think we have to be aware of some of the filters and pitfalls, but there are some people doing some really incredible things on social. And I'd like to think that Thigh Society is part of that conversation by showing diverse bodies and talking about how you can be confident in your body at any size.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I love those long shorts for the summer. They're a must. They're a must. But Noelle, with many people feeling shame about the weight that they've gained during this COVID times, how do we start to feel HAZE, which is an acronym for healthy at every size?
Great question, and really a powerful question that we all need to think about during this time, because there is such a stigma. And thank you, Marnie, for being part of the group of individuals at changing that stigma. It helps to give confidence. It helps to lift the cloud. Because we know that if we don't feel good about ourselves, it's even harder to think about ways to treat ourselves well. And when we look at making healthy choices, an analogy that I love to think about is a toddler. So we have a 2 or a 3-year-old, and we can love them with all our heart and still want to help them move towards who they will be as an adult, right? We're not acceptable necessarily of 2 and 3-year-old behaviors at the age of 20. So we love them and we work with them. So we can love and accept our body and still come up with ideas of, I'm going to add more yoga into my life. It helps with my mental health and my physical health. This is a great thing. I'm going to add a handful of spinach to my smoothie in the morning. It's not because you have been bad or you've made a poor choice. It's because you know spinach will serve your body well. So changing the narrative of it's something that we need to fix, that's not what we need to do, but we certainly can think about ways to incorporate healthy behaviors to say, I have more energy now. I have a better mental health now. It's not just numbers on the scale or the shape of the body.
I mean, I think a lot of us want to convince her, well, we want to believe that the numbers are not, they're just a number, right? But it's really hard to move away from that, right? Colleen, why are you personally opposed to diets overall?
I'm personally opposed because we know that diets don't work. It's one of the first precursors to possibly wanting to continue to lose weight and try to fight your natural set point. So set point's a theory that our body wants to reach a homeostasis. It's a number that is predetermined, just like our height, and that's where our body is its best. And if we treat our body well, it will treat us well. And it's a range between 10 and 20 pounds. So most people don't realize that when they're dieting, it's actually interrupting their set point. And so the body's going to fight to return to the weight that it naturally wants to be at. I oppose diets because they're not realistic. We have been tricked to believe that clean eating is healthy and that wellness and a lifestyle of health is really a diet. And it scares me that between 20 to 35% of males and females youth have been on a diet by the age of 20. And these numbers are getting younger and younger.
David, I saw you wanting to get in on this.
Well, earlier I heard the word role models, and I think that the more, we didn't have a lot of role models. We didn't have more plus size people out there. We didn't have out gay people out there. And I do believe that the more, because look, media, social media, and the media in general, it's booming. And so everybody is on 12 million different things. And the fact that there are more people who are standing up and saying, this is who I am. You are not alone in feeling the way that you feel, and I'm going to stand up for you now, I think has been the best part of that we didn't have years ago. It's the best part of what media and social media can do. I just wanted to say that because I heard those words, role model, and I just thought that's important. It is important for people to see that.
And David, too, I don't have to remind anyone that essentially 2 years of our lives have been taken. I noticed a lot of my younger friends who, 28, 29, 30, who celebrated 30 during the pandemic, and they feel as if they were robbed of those years, and who insist that they're not really 30, they'll be 28 for another 2 years because of that time. And it seems as a society, a lot of us do it. I mean, I lie about my age all the time. Your work includes ageism in this fight for self-acceptance. So how do we get to a point where we do accept that aging is not a bad thing? Because obviously we're all going to do it.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. One of the ways that I've dealt with it, first of all, is trying to live a healthier lifestyle. Everything's moderation, like don't overdo anything, and you should be fine. Because I put myself out there the way I do, because I'm an erotic model, and I've done in terms of the work that I do as an actor, whatever. I get a lot of blowback saying you're too old. You're too ugly, you're too this, you're too that. I also get a ton of positive reinforcement. But it's that negative stuff that has made me stronger. And I've gotten inside, I've been able to kind of dredge up this thing. Yeah, I'm getting older. And what's the alternative? I'm so thrilled that I'm getting older. And if I'm 63 now and hopefully I'll be around for another 20 years, I don't want to spend the next 20 years feeling like crap about myself or feeling too old to do stuff or feeling redundant. So I think we have to go deeper than the questions we have of ourselves, saying, I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel loved. I don't feel healthy, and leave it at that. We need to address the next moment. We need to have longer conversations about all this, because I think a lot of people feel that way. And age, I'll say it, age is just a number. And as long as you can kind of, keep your juices going, it's great. Wisdom.
Yeah, and it's a privilege to be around to correct those mistakes that we've made. Noelle, there are many terms out there: body positivity, size inclusivity, excuse me, body neutrality. What do they mean, and why should we be careful when choosing the right terminology?
Well, these are words that have emerged as part of a time where we're trying to say, let's get away from hunger being the enemy. Let's get away from BMI being something that we define ourselves as, or weight on the scale. Let's instead embrace these beautiful bodies that we have that can come in different sizes. When we think about body positivity, it's being positive towards the body. It's not saying, oh, I'm so bad for eating this, or I'm being good today. Since when are we a good or bad person based on the shape of our body, or based on what was on our plate or in a bowl? There's so much more. And so if we can just step back and say, let's love our body. Let's be good to our body that gets us through the day, that has just got us through a pandemic. That is a beautiful thing. Let's step away from making these restrictive choices or making someone feel poorly about themselves because of what they ate or what their body size is. And if we can move forward with this, if we can raise our next generation behind us and those behind them to have these new opinions of numbers and of the body and even of age, as David has been talking about, we can actually see an emergence of beautiful relationship with food, with hunger, with satiety, with our bodies, with our age. This can be a beautiful thing, and we can just erase the diet industry altogether as far as I'm concerned. They do not need our money anymore.
Marnie, your products, your undergarments are size inclusive. What does that mean?
So size inclusivity means representative of the population and the customers that we serve. So for Thigh Society, we offer our chafing undergarments in a size extra small to a size 6XL. Not what you might typically see, or the stereotype of chafing being a plus size issue, where we might only offer a certain size range. And I think, back to the comments about body positive, there have been a lot of brands in the last couple of years that have wanted to sort of jump on that body positive bandwagon because it was a trending hashtag and it was really trendy to say that you were body positive. And then they would turn around and either not offer their whole size range, or not offer their whole products in the full size range, or not show body diverse models on their website and in their socials. And I think it's really important, not only from a size perspective, but from a racial perspective, from an age perspective, all the things we've been talking about. We live in a diverse society. And I think if brands want to be compelling and have their customers appreciate them and know that they're trying to do better for society overall, for all of our mental health and wellness, the more you can be inclusive in your marketing and advertising, it's just smart business. It just makes sense for the overall good of society as well.
Colleen, Marnie mentioned body positive, but you actually prefer body neutrality. What does that mean exactly? Why do you prefer that term?
Well, body neutrality is basically that all bodies are good, that health does not have a look, and that we are much more than our thinness or our beauty, and that really, to use critical awareness and look beyond our body, there's so much more that we bring to the table. So to make the topic more neutral, I think body positivity is a great movement in the right direction, but I prefer neutrality. Just like thinness was the big buzzword at Ryerson with the Body Project, we prefer to look at it as an appearance ideal because that embraces more diverse ethnicity and males. Most males are honestly trying to fight against being too thin. So, I mean, beauty and body positivity means different things to different people. People that might be in a wheelchair, or so body neutrality just for me is less stigmatizing. It takes away good or bad, because positive is good.
And Noelle, another term that I wanted to go over with you, what is intuitive eating and why is it important?
Oh, great question. So intuitive eating is really paying attention to our true hunger and satiety cues. And sometimes when people hear intuitive eating, they think, oh, you're just going to eat cookies all day, or you eat constantly. Yeah. Well, if that's what you want to do, if that's what your body's asking for, that's the idea of intuitive eating. However, we need to remember too that intuitive eating also can mean that you're craving a nice bowl of vegetable barley soup, and you're craving a beautiful bowl of chips along with it. So it's the idea of paying attention to what does my body want, what does my body need, and not necessarily even thinking about breakfast, lunch, dinner. I love to think about nourishment opportunities. We're going to sit down and give our body some energy and some nutrition to get it through to the next opportunity to eat. And hunger is not the enemy. Hunger is a beautiful thing. It lets us know our body needs some more substance, some more nutrition. And so when we look at intuitive eating, we can throw out even the words of like moderation and balance and some words that are really just diet words, and instead look at the idea of nourishing your body well, paying attention to what it both wants and needs.
What about mindful eating? How is that different from intuitive eating?
It's very similar. It's within the concept of it. And when we look at mindful eating, it means that you are really thinking about the food that you are going to eat. One of the things that we can do as part of mindful eating is put things on a bowl or in a bowl or on a plate. And that way our eyes get to see what we're going to be putting into our mouths. Taking away distraction that might be on a screen is really great. So certainly social interaction is beautiful during meals, but ideally we're not working away and kind of eating our lunch, and all of a sudden you think, oh, well, I don't even recognize what I ate. I didn't get the chance to enjoy that. So when we add the mindfulness, we get the chance to think about, what do I feel like having right now? And then experiencing it. And we can really level up in North America to spend more time eating. Eating is not something that's meant to be done on the run while we do something else. We deserve to take time to nourish our body and our brain throughout the day. You are not being selfish. You are taking care of your beautiful body when you do that. So
yes.
Being mindful kind of encompasses all of that.
Yes, we deserve, because obviously this conversation is important because we want to eat so we can have healthy lives and have long lives. And David, with so much age shaming going on, I don't know is it okay if I say your age?
63, I'll say.
Awesome. With so much age shaming going on, what is positive about turning 63 in an ageist world?
Well, I said the word at the end of my last little rant of wisdom. You start to learn what's important. You can let some of the stuff go that you used to have. And you can it's an opportunity to kind of open your eyes. Some people kind of shut down and go, well, that's how I am, and I'm never going to change. And that's fine. That's fine. But I'm kind of choosing the other route and kind of going, especially because of this pandemic, because right before the pandemic, I had just liquidated a storage unit in New York that I had for 15 years. And once I did it, I walked around town. I was walking around the village going, I'm going to travel more. I'm going to find a boyfriend. And 2 weeks later, we were in lockdown. Good timing.
Well, looking forward, and this is a question for all of you, to what extent is a steady diet of these unrealistic images on social media contributing to so many people feeling shame about their bodies? I'll start with you, Colleen.
Well, as a mother of teenagers, I guess I'm not surprised, but it is alarming that adolescents spend upwards of 8 hours a day on social media, especially in such isolated times. It's become a norm. And between the filters and the editing and what I call research, they call trolling, and all the positive and negative comments that can be made, and just the sense of who's following me and how many followers do I have, it's alarming. I mean, what's missing is sites that normalize being human, sites that change the conversation. And I think there's an onus on us to look at social media feeds and to take, that should be our cleanse. We don't need to cleanse from food, but we do need to look at, where are we spending our time? Is this inclusive? Is this representative of who I am as a person? And to demystify and break down the conversations of, this isn't real. And everything looks good online.
And Marnie?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, though, that social media can be used as a force for good. So, I'm anti-diet, but, pro-social media cleanse is the only cleanse you should do, which is really take some time, scroll through your feed and look at some of the people you're following and ask yourself how you're feeling after looking at some of their posts. And if you're sitting with any sort of shame or guilt or negative emotions, you can block those people. You can delete. Maybe you're just going through a rough time and you don't intend to block them forever. You can always come back to them later. So I think it's important to learn how to use social media responsibly, to teach our, the younger people in our lives how to use it responsibly, because it can also be used for good if you start curating your feed with people who are living their best lives, their best confident lives in the bodies that they're in today, not in the 10, 15, 20, 25 pounds that we're always told we should be trying to lose, right? So there's tons of great accounts out there that are uplifting and that will make you feel great in the skin that you're in right now. And sure, there's going to be bad body confidence days. I also don't love the term body positive, which is why body neutrality is such a great term for body image for those of us who, might struggle or have struggles here and there. You don't have to love your body every single day, but you don't have to hate it every single day either. And you can just acknowledge and accept all the great things that your body's doing for you, and acknowledge that confidence doesn't have to come when you lose weight. You don't have to go on a diet to start feeling great in your own skin and feeling comfortable and confident.
And Noelle?
I 100% agree with what Colleen and Marnie have said. And I think it's really important to let go of any social media accounts that don't support the journey that you are on. If this is something that is, a new concept and you say, yes, this is what I'm going to work towards, let's let go of any accounts that don't support that. Seek out accounts that help you feel positive about your body, that support ideas along that way. And also a big piece, and this relates back to what we talked about with intuitive eating and mindful eating, is any accounts that remind you that we don't need to label foods. Foods aren't good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. Food is food. It's a banana. It's a Kit Kat bar. It's a bowl of ice cream. It's a hamburger. It's a spinach salad. It's food. And naming food for what it is can make a huge impact on our mindset. And so if we can embrace accounts that help us in those areas of both the body piece and the food piece that help to increase the mindset we're working towards, and then avoid those, just block those, whether it be temporarily or forever, those that do not support the path that you're on, that would be my top advice.
And David?
I'm also an actor, and there's that adage, if you read the good reviews, you have to read the bad reviews, and you have to take it all in. So my thing is, on social media or whatever, if you read the reviews, ignore all of them. If you don't read the reviews, that's great too. You let it roll off your back. And then what Marnie was saying is to put out the positive. Don't contribute to that awful kind of atmosphere of judgment and kind of hatred and the shame. We shame each other and we shame ourselves. You don't have to add to that. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to add to that kind of aura that we have so much of due to social media. But I agree, social media can be great. We can build our businesses. We can put positivity out there. So use it for that and forget about the crap that people put up there, sometimes anonymously, where they can be irresponsible and say, you're an idiot, and send it off, and then you have to read that. You don't.
And social media has been great for me during the pandemic because I've learned how to cook. So I've found really great recipes, simple recipes, because I'm not Martha Stewart, but anyways. Noelle, you said something that I really thought was fascinating. You said food is food, right? Stop labeling it. How do you counsel people to eat well and create a healthy diet without treading too deeply into discussions about being overweight and veering towards restrictive eating?
That's a powerful question and a really important topic. Absolutely. When I am looking at counseling someone who is wanting to add more health to their life, what I really want to help them do is add, not take away. So how can we add more green? How can we add more red through tomatoes or peppers? How can we eat the rainbow? How can we add more things that service our bodies well? How can we drink more water? How can we get out and move? But in adding those things, we don't have to take anything away. You can still enjoy ice cream and chips and Oreos and cookies, whether they be from a box or homemade. You can still have 2 cereals, maybe one that adds a bit more fiber because you're looking to move things through you, and one that has a little bit more added sugar because that's something that you enjoy. And we can model this not only for ourselves day in, day out, but for those of us who may have kids at home, it's a great way to model this behavior for them as well, that all foods can fit as part of being a healthy person. And we don't need to look at foods as good or bad, as I mentioned before. This is a huge message that I'm very passionate about. And it changes a narrative that we really have learned over the years. And so it can take practice for us to continue to change that narrative in our own minds and help others change that narrative as well. So bottom line, to answer your question, let's add things in as opposed to feeling like we need to take them away.
And I'll leave it at that. Thank you all so much. That was really great advice, Noelle. And thank you everyone for your great insights. I think this conversation is going to help a lot of people as we all try to navigate this so-called new normal. Really appreciate your insights and your time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nam.
Thank you.
One of the joys of travel is finding out how other cultures see the world, what they value and enjoy, and the ways that's different from what you're accustomed to. For our next guest, a recent such experience became life-changing, personally and professionally. With us now to explain, in Rome, Italy, Zoe Shapiro, who is the founder of Stellivision Travel. Zoe, it's so good to meet you. Shall I say, come stai questa sera?
Oh, bene, grazie. E voi?
Tutto a posto, niente in ordine, grazie, which is Italian for everything's terrific, nothing's working, which I'm told is a classic Italian expression. Let's get into this here. What were you doing in Canada when you decided to simply uproot and move to Italy?
I was a marketing consultant. I pivoted from working in a department to being out on my own and freelancing. And I realized that I could go ahead and make one of my dreams come true, which is work remotely for a year. I had a wonderful intern on Toronto time holding down the fort, and I offered my clients a bit of a discount to take our monthly meeting onto Skype, because this was the days before we all started Zooming with one another.
Mm-hmm. And this is going to sound like a bit of an odd question, but what did you think of yourself while you were here before you moved there?
That is a question in perpetual motion. I think any woman who grew up with YM magazine and the 2000s and the inundation of media, it really depends on any given day. But at the time I left, I was struggling a little bit. I wasn't totally happy with the reflection I saw in the mirror. And it was more about a way of thinking than the true reflection. But yeah, I wasn't perfectly content at that juncture.
What didn't you like about what you saw in the mirror?
I equated my appearance to my value. And because I didn't place a lot of value in how I looked, everything else became so heightened and important. And it was just a recipe for dissatisfaction.
And when you moved to Italy, did that change?
It has evolved. And it's continuing to evolve. I don't think how we feel about ourselves is a static idea at any point in our lives. But by and large, yes, it did change quite a bit.
Let's break it down. How did you regard the way you eat in Italy now with the way you used to regard food and eating when you lived in Canada?
Well, my first 6 months in Italy were nomadic. I had a car lease and my dog was my co-pilot, and I was mostly based on islands and in rural areas. So Uber Eats was completely out of the question. That was an immediate change. And the experience of food and ingredients in Italy is quite different than what I was accustomed to in Toronto. The produce is fresh and local. You're more likely to buy it at a market. And I think subconsciously I was more connected to what I was eating. But I was never, I never came to Italy with a goal to change the way I eat. It really was a natural byproduct of everything else. I certainly deprived myself of no pastas and no gelato. I ate them all.
Well, but the Mediterranean diet is supposed to be pretty good for you, right?
Yeah, I'm far from an expert, but my best interpretation, and I've had friends who have visited say the same thing, is you can eat a lot and you don't feel heavy. And I think, pardon me, I don't want to disparage where I came from, which I love, but all the crap has gone out of the food. It's simply produced, even in restaurants, and it's natural. And, you could eat a pasta and feel limber and fine walking away.
Right. Now let's talk about another thing that you changed in your lifestyle, and that is you started swimming pretty much every day. And okay, here's my strange question on that. I wouldn't have thought that a Canadian woman who might have been a little bit nervous at one point about body image would want to be in a bathing suit surrounded by a bunch of Italian men looking at her every day. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And it took me sort of the breadth of that summer to really evolve my thinking, because I started out with that Canadian woman mindset, fully accessorized, both to distract from my body, other people, and myself. And a beach day was like a Saturday, and I would devote a day, sit in a chair for 8 hours, the way we might if we went on vacation during the Canadian winter. And then I realized that that's not the way Italians interact with the seaside. And by September of that year, I was doing some work, darting to the beach, wearing a bathing suit and maybe some cutoffs in the car, throwing a towel down on somewhere rocky, and then, going back to work.
And feeling better about yourself all in the same time.
Absolutely. And I'm going to challenge one of the things you said about Italian men looking at me on the beach. Italians don't really ogle anyone. And that became very apparent to me. They don't look at what society and media has deemed the bad bodies. And they also don't really react to the gorgeous bodies either. It's just a way of life. It's an experience to enjoy with your friends and your family. And that really helped me shed a lot of my own self-consciousness when I realized nobody cared. Everyone was just here to swim. And then I joined in.
Okay, let me read an excerpt here from a piece that you wrote that the Globe and Mail published last month, and it goes like this. The sea wasn't there for a special day out. It became a daily pleasure. Despite a pandemic weight fluctuation, hint, I gained, by the following June, my tentativeness had all but evaporated. I learned the sea was a way of life in Italy. It's a pinnacle of summer in a culture that revolves around community and pleasure. Why would I deprive myself of the relief from the heat, I had no air conditioning, and enjoyment of the water? I knew I wanted to share this freedom from the stress and worry about body size with other women in the place where I learned it. Negative conditioning about your body shouldn't be an impediment to enjoying the sea, your vacation, or Italy. You are now, Zoe, bringing your positive experiences to something you call Stellavision. What is Stellavision?
Stellavision is a boutique travel company for self-identifying women. We offer the ease of an all-inclusive vacation, but we take female travelers to places that are much harder to reach in Italy. I mean, my philosophy is you really don't need me to see the Colosseum. I'll connect you to an amazing tour guide. And I want to take women behind the scenes to enjoy the Italy that I've been able to see. And I definitely want to bring some of the learnings and the freedom that I've gained to their vacation experiences.
And Stella, is that your middle name?
Yes, Zoe Stella Shapiro. It's also a beautiful Italian word, so it felt very fitting.
It does fit perfectly. And okay, tell me the story here. This all happened because you lost your wallet and you couldn't find your way home?
That talk about generalities, but yes, absolutely. To this day, I don't know if it was unluckiness or kismet, but the day before the Italian lockdown, I either had my wallet stolen or I misplaced it. So when lockdown was announced the following day, I didn't have a driver's license or credit cards. And if you recall, Italy was sadly about 2 weeks ahead of the rest of the Western world when it came to COVID-19. So it was a very scary time. And even as I was on the phone to the consulate in Ottawa and, having conversations about how I could get home to Canada, it became clear that renting a car and driving to Paris and flying out of there, strategies like this would simply not work. So I stayed and I did that really scary first lockdown alone in Rome, but I also developed some roots and some community. And then I had an incredible silver lining and a privilege of experiencing Rome empty. Even it gives me shivers to this day, being the only person at the Trevi Fountain, that memory.
Did you throw the 3 coins in?
Well, I threw 2 for love. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to marrying a Roman. We'll see.
Okay, in our last 20 seconds here, you're in Italy now. Have we lost you in Canada, or you're coming back at some point?
You've lost me. I am here running Stellavision. I really want to create this community of female travelers. And next up for us is a really exciting trip, which is all about body positivity and the journey to body acceptance while enjoying Italy.
Auguri, Zoe.
Grazie mille, Steve.
And that is the agenda for Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. Tomorrow, we'll follow the money and the international influence of the convoy protests. Also, talk to eminent China scholar Elizabeth Economy about her new book, The World According to China. I'm Steve Paikin. Thanks for watching TVO, for joining us online at tvo.org, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.